Hello everybody, and welcome back to Zero Review Stuff. My name is Zero, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the third studio album, Beauty and Death, by the Australian R&B/hip-hop trio Chase Atlantic. This album was just released March 5th as their first release with their new record label, Fearless Records, and is the follow-up to 2019's Phases, which still stands as my favorite Chase Atlantic project to date. Although Beauty and Death definitely came close to breaking the record that Phases has, and I'm going to talk about why. After the release of the debut single from this album, Out the Roof, on August 14th of last year, I was really scared that Chase Atlantic was going into a more modern SoundCloud-era sound with their music, especially after the musical and lyrical complexity of Phases. I didn't want them to, become mainstream after how amazing Phases was. I liked the track when it first came out, but it slowly started to become more unappealing to me because I started disliking the type of style that the band was trying to go for with that song. It's predictable, horribly mainstream, and it overall just felt more like a track that was trying too hard to make it onto the radio, rather than a track that actually put a lot of effort into it and wanted it to have a deeper meaning. And that's not always a bad thing, but Chase Atlantic is a band that has always been known for having meaning to their music, so you can understand why I was a little bit scared. So yeah, my 3 out of 5 rating for that track has slowly but surely changed to a 2 out of 5. Then came Molly just 2 months after the release of Out the Roof, and it became one of my favorite Chase Atlantic songs very quickly. It's emotional, catchy, and almost very dreamy in a way, which is a style that Chase Atlantic has explored a lot in their early works. Then came Slide on January 29th of this year, and I like it fine, but it kind of felt like it was stuck in a gray area between being good and bad. It was just meh. Lastly, then came Empty on February 19th, and was almost up to par with Molly. Empty is definitely a solid banger that goes back to what I loved about their 2019 EP, Don't Try This, as it had a very similar hard R&B/trap style, like most of the tracks off the EP. So, after these 4 tracks, the big question that kept crossing my mind was, what style are they trying to go for? Then Beauty and Death came out and answered that question perfectly. Many different styles that mostly work, but when they don't happen very often, and I definitely appreciate that a lot. It saved this album from being lower down on my list. Even though I didn't really expect this album to be up to par with Phases, because let's be honest, nothing will be, it's still a pretty solid banger of an album. There are more hard R&B influenced songs that hit house-shakingly hard, there are more mellow tracks that are reminiscent of something off their 2017 self-titled record, and then there are tracks that don't really stick to a certain script, and that's kind of the thing that Chase Atlantic have always been known for. You never know what they're going to do next, and the entire time I was listening to this album, I was always thrown in for a loop song after song, because it's always something different with each song, and it's that kind of innovation I look for with every artist or group, and most of them don't have that kind of versatility these days, so it's nice that Chase Atlantic can be considered one of the rare ones in the music scene, and this album proves that especially, maybe even a little more than Phases at times, but not all the time. Some of my favorite tracks off this record are the ones that hit a lot harder and have a more contemporary R&B and trap feel to them, because that's the style I feel like Chase Atlantic pulls off the best, at least in my opinion. The opening track, Paranoid, this song, is by far one of the heaviest and most hard-hitting tracks Chase Atlantic have probably ever put out, and that's saying something. It's not even just the heavy bass-driven beat that makes this track incredibly hard-hitting, it's also the incredibly personal and introspective lyrics about wanting to commit suicide because the drugs are just making you too paranoid, and I feel like this track in particular is probably the most real and honest Chase Atlantic has ever been, preferably the lead singer Mitchell Cave, because he's the primary songwriter, so he might be speaking from personal experience, and it's a song that doesn't make drugs seem cool, but rather it warns you about them and is basically saying, dude, don't take this stuff because it will mess you up. It's rather new for Chase Atlantic, as they are primarily flexing drugs, and that's why I love this song. It's powerful, hard-hitting, energetic, and it works perfectly as an opening track for this record. The title track, Beauty and Death, is a huge nostalgia trip for fans who have been sticking around since the early days of their self-titled record, and even though I haven't been a fan of the group for that long, it still gives me nostalgia from the times that Dancer in the Dark and Heaven and Back were on repeat for basically my entire summer. It shifts away from the more modern feel of this project and goes back to their poppier 80s influenced electronic rock vibes that were so present on their self-titled record, especially on tracks like Dancer in the Dark, and even tracks like Vibes from the 2015 EP Nostalgia, which is a very underrated EP, by the way. This track is fun, it's full of energy, incredibly dance-worthy, and I would definitely consider adding this song to my driving playlist if I had a car, because that's what the song would be perfect for. It's nostalgic, and it almost hits home if you've been sticking around since the early days of more like straight-up pop and rock. Even the songs I kind of mostly disliked off this record still have a sense of fun and enjoyment to them, but it doesn't always work for me, specifically Please Stand By featuring rappers Dwayne Jackson and Xavier Mayne. The lyrics on the song are painfully cringy, to the point where I had to skip the song after listening to it halfway through, and I don't feel like it's entirely the band's fault, since they may have been influenced by the features to write lyrics this cringy and forced, but Yeah, this song just doesn't do anything for me. It goes in this more modern hip-hop slash rap direction that features a nauseatingly bad performance from both the band and the features, specifically whoever is rapping in the first part, which I think might be Dwayne Jackson if I'm not mistaken. Sorry. Please stand by, I love it when my get high. It's just a bad line that's almost laughable because of all of this and more. And I don't see the song being anything more than a guilty pleasure because it's almost so bad that it's good, but it's not quite there yet. And then once again, the lead single Out the Roof is a track that I liked at first, but it slowly grew off of me more and more. While I do think that Mitchell's rapping on this track, yes, rapping, is pretty solid, and he has a good flow, and it isn't meant to be anything more than a fun track on an album full of mostly depressing songs. The lyrics are just very derivative and almost copied from other artists in the modern rap scene, and it's times like this when I feel Chase Atlantic's attempt at adding more modern vibes to their songs don't work very well. Paranoid features way better lyrics and a faster flow that really is new for Mitchell, as rapping isn't something we hear him do very often. But yeah, like Please Stand By, this song is a guilty pleasure for me at most, if I could even call it that. Much like Phases, this album has a more modern feel to it. It features more programmed drums, synths, auto-tune vocals, all those kind of things, and it's times like this that scare me that Chase Atlantic are going to go into a more and more modern direction the more they progress, but so far they are pulling it off pretty well, especially with this album, and if they choose to stay in this genre, or at least expand upon it a little bit without going too mainstream, then I'll be pretty okay with it, because this album is very solid for me. So yeah, I like this album, I really do. It features some of Chase Atlantic's most hard-hitting and energetic production and performances yet. It's a lot more experimental than their last record, even though that isn't always a compliment. And despite 2 or 3 filler tracks, it works pretty damn well for me. I'm feeling a strong 7 out of 10 for this one, maybe a light 7.5. Subscribe if you love cute kitties and more music reviews, and like this video if you enjoyed this review. Tell me what you think of the album if you listened to it, or if you've never heard of it at all, or the band in general. Then here's a chance for you to check out new artists. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this review, guys, but until the next review, my name is Zero, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.